never seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen jiu-jitsu, but those guys are amazing.
A great honor to have the Machado brothers.
Machado.
It's Carlos Machado.
This episode is sponsored by Stay Humble Coffee. Coffee is so good, it doesn't need to brag. Find it at stayhumblecoffee.com. Hello, everyone. Carlos Machado here, the host of The Coffee Time with Carlos Machado. In this episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Rob Kirkland, a musician, a writer, a director, and an actor. And what I like most about him, he's a fellow martial artist. Yeah, that's true. We're going to dig into that and many others. In the meantime, subscribe and like this podcast and spread the message. And don't forget, make the comments whenever needed. All right? We appreciate your support and hope you enjoyed the show. All right, guys, coffee time with Carlos Machado. I have the pleasure here to have our guest, Mr. Rob Kirkland, a martial artist, actor, writer, producer, musician. I'm running out of words to describe him, but when my brother Hegan mentioned his name and I got a chance to catch up with him FaceTime, I said, I'm going to just do my own research here, make sure that I have all. Robert, it's a pleasure to have you here today. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This is a big honor. Thank you, Professor.
Yes, that's great.
I appreciate it.
I like to start kicking in. Martial arts is something that we already have, a common denominator here.
Yeah.
And I kind of dug a little bit on your past. And art has always been part of the deal.
Yeah.
And I've seen different actors like Michael J. White emphasize how much martial arts has been tremendous tool for him in Hollywood. Like when he interacts with other people, you have your code of honor, you have the culture background that comes from martial arts.
Yeah.
I'd like to start with that, if it's okay, before I even start from your beginning. I'll leave the mic open for you right now. Go ahead, my brother.
Well, how it's as far as how martial arts has influenced my work as an actor, or I mean, I
as an individual, and then everything else.
100%. Yeah, as an individual, it's like a continual evolution, especially my now coming into 8 years with jiu-jitsu. Like I tell people, like, hey, you want to really learn to humble yourself? Do jiu-jitsu. Do jiu-jitsu. Give jiu-jitsu, and you will find you will meet yourself if you give it a chance. So yeah, I have found martial arts about that aspect, about reintroducing myself to myself, favorable, sometimes unfavorable aspects of myself that need refinement and that I continue to refine. And and especially now, this part of my journey, which I know is an ongoing, forever journey, becoming more comfortable with some of those uncomfortable parts of yourself, how you handle and mitigate yourself and parts of yourself under pressure in unfamiliar environments. Being consistent and disciplined without being rigid is another really important aspect that I've been weaving into self, and that is something that you get an opportunity to explore on the mat, on the mat, which is what, a big fan of jiu-jitsu in that it's like real-time problem solving with high, I mean, people say high stake consequences. I know like Rogan would say it's, with yoga with, or murder yoga with extreme consequences. Yeah. It is, but then again, also when you're training, the other part of it is once you get past the ego, it's really not about losing or getting submitted, even though that part of your parasympathetic nervous system is like, I could be dead. But it's like, I have an opportunity now to approach this problem again. Yeah,
problem solving, right?
It's problem solving.
It's the chess. It's the chess game.
100% that,
Isn't that crazy? Like a lot of times you talked about a couple of things there. Comfort in discomfort. Yeah, that's a big deal with jiu-jitsu. Like 100%. You got a big guy smashing you. You kind of like. I remember my blue belt days. I would look at a clock and say, before I quit, I'm gonna wait for a minute, and then a minute would pass. Okay, I'm gonna try another minute. I was literally trying to convince myself not to tap out or quit for no reason because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
You know, you said something else about discipline, about being humble, especially when you come from a different martial arts. I understand. You originally, if correct me if I'm mistaken, you're also a Taekwondo black belt, correct?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, little bit rusty.
That's okay.
When I say that, because when I see some of these things now, I'm like, oh wow, I used to fly like that. But I still keep it up. Yeah, I trained in Taekwondo and Aikido for about 10 years. I got my black belt under Jun Kim and Jin Ha Choi, who were multiple-time Korean national champions, and great guys. And I haven't seen them in a minute, but learned a lot from them and in their particular approach to Taekwondo, which is great because I seeing a lot of that, which has always been there, but surface in UFC still, you know what I mean? Where
100%.
Their approach was a very, and especially my former master in Taekwondo, Jun Kim, he's like, I grew up I grew up on the streets, and so we use this as a self-defense.
Right.
They hadn't known jiu-jitsu, but they use this as a self-defense. So so I did that for a number of years, and just was looking to transition to something else, and kind of slowed down on training in that particular part of my life.
Right.
But those principles still have stuck with me. Whether the mechanics of it are still with me,
It's like learning how to ride a bike.
It's like learning how it's like learning how to ride. It's like learning how to ride a bike. And then sometimes I see things, I'm like, oh, it's it's like, oh, I used to teach this or whatever it is. But and also the philosophy, you know what I mean?
That's the part that I feel a lot of times people don't take in consideration. I think the philosophical aspect of martial arts is so impactful because you can be a good fighter,
100%.
but the main goal is to be a better person.
100%.
And I don't think you can accomplish that without a degree of philosophical approach. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm going like back into my 20s when I was competing, and maybe a little bit more also hard-headed. And you could have the best technique, you could have the most vigor and the heart of the lion and whatnot, but it really is the philosophy on how you apply that. Otherwise you can you just end up being a knucklehead, getting himself into I found myself in a couple of situations when I was younger and different fights and whatnot, and you look back on certain things and you're like, to your point, the philosophy, and as you mature, regardless of your age, right? As you mature and you really start to practice that philosophy, some situations it's not about you being able to impose your will on a person. It's being able to impose that upon yourself. You know what I mean? And again, keep yourself calm and comfortable and focused in uncomfortable situations, and not be so reactive.
It always brings to mind one image that I have. It's the most clear expression of the philosophy. It's like the Spider-Man moment.
Oh yeah,
like with great power
comes great
responsibility, man. And a lot of times people don't realize if you have martial arts, it's powerful, right? But it has to be powerful in a way that you control yourself.
100%.
You know what you're capable of, but you're always going to be restrained, self-restrained, and know that because you know what you're capable of, the likelihood of you infringing upon it will be less likely. I remember back in Brazil, there was one part of the beach that every single inch was occupied by the fighter.
Wow.
A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, a Luta Livre guy who's like a no-gi blend of Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. And nobody would mess up with each other. Everybody was cordial. And because they knew that everybody kind of could stand their ground. So you had that implicit kind of like a vibe. But on the other hand, when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have your skills, it makes you you negotiate without imposing your power, like you said.
For sure.
You're humble.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're strong.
Yeah, yeah. You don't know, like, because it's like you don't know what you don't know, and then you come across certain situations, or even now training, where I couldn't see myself at this part of my life getting into a street altercation. Like it literally is so far removed, because I would just stand down, you know what I mean, or remove myself from that situation. And it's a combination of the two. It's like you don't know what you don't know. This person talking to me, or maybe one of my friends, or my girlfriend at the time, or something like that, saying something that you can still protect and defend, but de-escalating. I think being able to de-escalate a situation is an important skill. Part of martial arts, because you don't know what you don't know, and they don't know what they don't know, and
that's true.
It's not.
That's a question mark. And nowadays,
it's not worth finding out.
Nowadays, if you're here in Texas, for instance, the odds are very high somebody has a gun.
Yeah. So what's the point, right?
And anywhere somebody has a blade or something, it's not that. If you have to defend yourself, you're going to do what you can with what you got.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But being wise, I guess.
Yeah, there's nothing to prove. I think that's what it is. Like, and that's the thing now. Is like, there's nothing.
I agree.
There's nothing to prove. Even to myself, there aren't things that I'm trying to even. There are challenges, I suppose. There's for sure challenges, but I don't get that sense that there's something that I really need to prove to myself. I'll set a challenge and like, hey, let's go after that challenge with a technique, problem solving or a situation. But it really is, which might have sounded a little bit like Pollyanna or booky to me a while ago, a few years back, but it really is like, oh, I'm really, the fight is against myself. The challenge is against
the really, person in the mirror, right? Isn't the person in the mirror the main one?
Yeah, and it
crazy,
really
right?
Is, yeah, and then you think that, and I would think that I would hear them like, yeah, and then you go on the mat, and then maybe there's this guy or that guy, whoever it is, for like month after month after month is smashing you, and you look in the mirror, the fight is against myself. The fight is against myself. The fight is against myself. And then at some point, it really is like, oh yeah, the fight really is against myself.
There's that law in jiu-jitsu. One day you're the hammer.
One day you're in the
not the day you're the nail, right? But sometimes, depending who you're going with, if that guy goes more than you, or he's like a full-fledged martial artist, the odds of that guy being the hammer for a long haul. So I guess you limit to, let's see if I can be a good nail at least, right?
That's a very good point. Yeah, like sometimes they'll be like, oh, so there's some guys I'm like, okay, hey, this guy, whether it's the physicality, technique, or experience, I'm like, hey, if I can just be a good nail in this session and survive this, or if I can just maintain a position. With there's certain people in my academy like, okay, hey, if I can just maintain a position with this, that's a win. That's a win.
Well, I want to jump into your acting, and I know from Yellowstone to the Mayor of Kingstown, Taylor Sheridan, the Sheridan Mafia, people are just throwing that right there. I said, man, you hooked up with a big wig right there, man, and. So it's intriguing, and I know you come from a jazz, and your dad was a musician.
You guys went to
so I mean, you went into music, you dealt with real estate, you had daytime job, working finances, different things, and acting was kind of like that revelation moment as man, that's my calling. And then, you got your short film, you start to dig into it. You wrote. I see a lot of correlations because I think when I saw Taylor's story, he was trying to act and then he became a writer. And then from there, a director and a producer. You started already writing. Right? Is that what you did?
Yeah, that's a good interesting way to look at it. Taylor, Taylor is a good friend of mine, for a minute, and very sharp dude, one of the most authentic people that I know, and I picked that up from him, from the first time that we had met, which now going close to like 20 years now, like
Is that how long you guys met?
Then it's been.
When did that happen the first time?
Well, then it happened. I mean, I credit Taylor with being very supportive too about me getting into acting, because at that time I was in LA and I was doing music. I was writing and producing records, and I thought that, for me, it's been about chasing the story, so to speak. And so when you mentioned Taylor's journey, I think it's I can't and wouldn't speak for him, but about his progression from as I see it, and to the degree in which I know him, of whatever that's measured, is following the story and how you can be part of the story. You know what I mean? And a friend of ours had connected us together, and he was doing coaching and stuff way back in the day in LA. And at that particular point, I was doing music there, but also considering I'm from the East Coast, headed back to the East Coast, headed back, and maybe just going to New York, and I'd been taking acting here and there. There was a catharsis in it for me, but I didn't really ever, and I mean this earnestly, I didn't really see myself as doing that. I didn't know, big fan of movies. That was one way that my father and I connected without saying anything. Was watching movies, watching old movies. So I'd just been fascinated, like, how do people do that? You know what I mean? How do people do that and then create these worlds and elicit these emotions, or these people that I don't know, or these people that I'm watching that have long since passed, and I'm connected, to them. I thought that there was a magic and a sorcery about that. But so when my friend had connected me, it's like, oh, you should go talk to my friend Taylor. And I was like, look, I'm just tired of this town.
Where was he at that stage, though? Was Taylor already? Had he already?
No.
He didn't start. No, he was before Sicario, right?
Yeah, it was long before that. It was long before that. And a friend of mine introduced, and he's like, oh, you should go talk to my friend Taylor. And my friend Crocia, shout out to Crocia, and she's like, "Oh, you should go talk to Taylor." I was like I had a couple of cool coaches and whatnot. Anyways, I was like, I'll go by, and he was talking to a couple of people, and it was in this basement on Santa Monica in LA, and or theater, excuse me, not basement, but theater, and that just happened to be a little underground, and and I just listened to him talk about storytelling and about the importance of and the power of storytelling, the catharsis of storytelling, and I was like, oh, this dude gets it. And there was myself and maybe 3 other people in that room, and then who were checking things out or auditing, and then a couple of them walked out, and then I just say, hey, Taylor, Rob Kirkland, and we just and then just stayed in contact. And whenever I was working on something, and he was very encouraging about me continuing on as an actor. So I just like a musician or martial artist, that everyone needs coaching, right? But sometimes you need to really become to take ownership of your craft. You need to kind of go out on your own. You need to find your own method. And so I wasn't and am not against coaching for sure. But I was not a lot of what I was running into was like, oh, at some particular point, I had training and had extensive training as an actor too. I was like, and I was doing theater, but just for the sake of doing it, because it brought me
it was building
joy.
Up.
Yeah, but as far as the business aspect and getting I wasn't interested in it in that part of it. Even though now people
it's more of a passion,
pictures and everything and stuff, and I do that because it's part of the the business. But it was just more of a passion, and I was doing theater in and around LA for a number of years, just for the sake of doing it. But then it was a conversation with Taylor about pursuing it more. At another level, and he was very, very supportive early on. But that was way before Sicario, was before any of the stuff. I didn't really know that he was writing, but I'm not surprised by what he has achieved and continues to achieve, because that's just the sensibility that I got from him a while back.
I tell you what, Rob, one thing that you're bringing to mind with this story that you're telling me about your connection with him, and that you had to find your own space to figure out what you really, if acting was really what you wanted. I call that solitude for fortitude.
Yes.
Sometimes you really have to get alone for a little bit and figure out what you really want. You spend time with yourself, which I feel a lot of times in the midst of Hollywood, and you have so many distractions and people come in and going, it can be very erratic.
Yeah, you got to answer. You have to answer to yourself. Just like with jiu-jitsu, just at this part of my stage with that, I was like, oh, this is similar to that with acting, where you make the transition, and I'm now, you go and past blue to purples and the belts, and you start. It's like you have the person you have to answer to is to yourself. Yeah, casting and the producers or the network, everyone has a problem to solve, like when they're bringing you on, because they are rooting for you and would like you to help solve a problem. But you have to have your own measurement, just like within martial arts, just like within jiu-jitsu, of what your progress is. The minute you go into a situation, or I go into, I send something in for a read, or I show up on set and I am trying to affect, if I'm trying to affect who's watching me, I'm trying to affect the audience, or I'm trying to appease, anybody, it's dead. You know what I mean? It's dead, because then I'm outside of myself, and then you run that habit, so that the danger of that habit, to where you are now performing. When other actors ask me, I was like, don't perform, don't perform. Yeah, just be, and be earnest, be authentic, and transmute what's coming in, which is much like jiu-jitsu, and sending it out. But you also need to have that practice separate. Sure. You should be going at a particular stage of doing something, of doing an art. At a particular stage, you need to be able to, when you're going to your instructor, your master instructors, whoever it may be, you're going to them for refinement. You're going to them for refinement, to help you find more depths, but the agency has to be yours. And that I apply with my career as an actor and writer, and that career as a martial artist. And to circle back with Taylor, I think from my point of view, with the progression of his career, which has been extraordinary and inspiring, wouldn't even necessarily say in my end that it was a conscious decision. I just see it as Taylor. I mean, he's conscious about what he does, trust me, and conscientious too, but him following the story and how he can best serve the story. And just like sometimes there's something that pops up, and he'll go in and do it as an actor, and how can he best serve the craft of storytelling. And that's how I see it too. I started out, and I still do write, and I was writing music and whatnot. So I was like, oh, I found it now that my thing about it as an acting is like, oh, this is how I can serve story. This is how I can serve story right now.
You pointed out you're not forcing. When you're in the moment, you're surrendering to the moment.
Yeah, trying.
It's kind of like that idea. If you don't mind, I'm curious about your timeline. Let's say you had your music time, and then you kind of start digging into playing, acting in plays. But when you start to kind of land your jobs, like a little bit of a summary and timeline between that and Yellowstone, kind of like a time travel.
It's who was I talking to about this? Oh, a friend of mine. I don't want to speak for my friend of mine, Abe, and I ran into him on the plane coming in here. Abe Alexander. Shout out to Abe Alexander. He Oscar nominee for we got someone at the door. Yeah, Oscar nominee for Sing Sing, and he had wrote and performed that song. Like a bird, and we ran into each other on the plane on the way here, and about like when you receive a certain level of recognition or acknowledgement, you're like, wait a second, same thing with jiu-jitsu. Like when you see that promotion, you're already that level before it comes. And what can be interesting about this industry as a storyteller, entertainer, I see myself, is that when certain things or opportunities, especially within the industry collectively, it's like, oh, where has this person been? So but you were already that person. So to that point is that as I was going through and I was doing plays and auditioning, and I think the thing that really was the first big like pop-up was the Criminal Minds. And at that particular point, I've been, doing it for so long, and so many auditions and callbacks and tests and getting so close. And then, you have this real, like, start to let that go, because that's what drives people crazy is, and you start to realize how far out of control certain things are, no matter how great of a performance or how hard you work. It's a lot of it is about attrition, timing, and luck, and being ready. So when I landed the Criminal Minds, shout out to Lisa Zambetti who cast me in that. I think, man, I had been in with CBS 6 times. I'd gone to producers with them 5 times before that, excuse me. And for some, really cool parts. And it's funny because this is why I say to myself, and or the other actors ask me, is like, you just gotta just like show up, do the best that you can, and then let it go, because you don't know what's what. So that role came up, and that was to play Aisha Tyler's fiance on Criminal Minds. Sign out to Aisha, who was fun to work with, who's an ace, is an ace. And the other roles were like these other recurring roles, and I was like, oh, but this one was one episode.
What season was that?
This was I should remember that, right? Shoot, dang.
That's
13,
all right.
15? It was, I think 13. Night Watch. No, that was Night Watch. That was Kingstown. Anyway, so so this episode, I wasn't looking at like, oh, this is the one. This is going to be one episode instead of the other things that I was literally with network with and so I was like, okay, this is great, and I liked the character, and I liked what was happening with the scene, and there was a lot of nuance and stuff in it. And it's so funny because to this day. This was back in 2015, I think. So to this day, I probably as recently as last month, someone will come up and say, "Oh, Doug Fuller from Criminal Minds." I was in Malawi, Africa, 3-4 years ago, and I was coming out of eating lunch, and there was a group of high schoolers visiting, and then 2 of the girls go, "Weren't you in Criminal Minds? Or do you play the I was the reach of that show?" And that's funny because that's when my mother saw me as an
That's
actual,
quite popular though.
It's really popular.
Yeah.
But the point is like that's also when my mother considered me an actual actor, because I made it on Criminal Minds. But that one episode, which was just going to be that one episode, started opening up doors, not just outside, but inside the industry, because a lot of people saw it, and a lot of people saw the appreciated the work and whatnot. So that was that, and then there were there's lots of auditions in between, and then I had auditioned for Wind River.
Yep.
A little bit after that, which I don't know if people have checked it out.
I love it.
Wind River is
one of my favorites.
Wind River is fantastic.
It's one with Jeremy Renner, right?
Renner, yeah. I was saying that to Renner.
What a movie!
Shot him. I was like, bro, someone had posted something, and I sent it to him. I was like,
that was Taylor's too, right?
That was 100, and that was fantastic. That was 110% Taylor. That was his official directorial debut. And
I didn't know that. Was that right?
Yeah, he wrote and directed that, and it was just, I mean, I keep saying, I know even right now I'm like, but I'm like, man, people check what you've seen. Check out Wind River.
Can you check when Wind River was made?
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what,
it's a powerful piece of art.
My brother-in-law mentioned that to me.
Yeah,
I watched that during a flight.
It's great.
And I was mesmerized.
2017. Yeah, so 2017. Yeah. And Taylor and I had worked on something else who was helping out a friend of ours, and had on a project, and Taylor was involved with it. This is before Wind River, and I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, because there's people you get a sense in the same thing on the mat in jiu-jitsu, that you can tell after you roll with someone, you can get a sense, but I had that sense about Taylor. Intense guy. He's intense, but I actually appreciate people that are forthright and intense and to the point.
So Wind River. Criminal Minds.
So Criminal Minds, then Wind River, and then so I'd auditioned for Wind River, and then they had sent in the tape. And then it went to casting. I'm trying to remember exactly how this happened, because my agent at the time was like, well, Taylor, call Taylor. I was like, I'm not going to call Taylor and ask him to, get the take. I was like, we're going to get the tape in. We're going to do it the proper way. We're going to, put myself on tape. and was like also trying to put together, pieces of the script because it was kind of hush hush, but that I could start to getting pieces of it from friends that had auditioned for Wind River and started reading. I was like, oh, I see what I've got an idea of what he's doing here. And this is pretty dope again. So anyway, so I, because this is before a lot of the other stuff had blew up. And then then my agent had called me like the day before and said, yeah, it's not going any further or something like that, which you kind of, not get used to, but get used to. And I was just like, oh, this is a project that I would really, want to be a part of. And there are directors like that. Like even if Taylor wasn't my friend, it's a piece of art I wanted to be, a project, a part of, just like, if Ryan Johnson, my buddy Ryan, if you're watching this,
there you go.
Ryan and I've had this conversation. I was like, Ryan, every time something comes up, I message him like, yo, there are certain people whose sensibilities and my trust of them as artists, I would just like, to be in that space to contribute to, to have some type of contribution with this thing. So that's how I felt about Wind River, just to be a part of it. And again, it wasn't like, it wasn't like, it wasn't for the notoriety of it. It was just, this is a piece of art that, man, there's something about this. And then
it counts.
And then it counts. And then Taylor was really cool because I got a phone call from him. I was like kind of bummed because it was like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to like get like, I was like, oh, it's like, if you read Chinatown or something, you're like, man, I would have loved to have had a scene in that, in that movie, just to, or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and he called me, the next day. I think it was like, he's very funny. He called my phone. It's like 6:37 in the morning. And Kirkland, I don't really think anyone has ever called me by my first name in 20 years. Like, Kirkland. He goes, I go, hey, what's going on? He goes, yeah, saw your tape, and let me tell you why you're not getting the job.
Oh my goodness.
But it was an eye opener because it had nothing to do with my work as an actor. He said it straight up. He goes, it's nothing to do with what you did or doing as an actor. And he's like, here's what I'm saying in the movie.
What a nice guy.
With fantastic. Wow. Yeah. So, and we talked like 20 minutes about the movie. And he asked me what I'm doing. And I was like, I just came off Criminal Minds with Aisha. We talked about that. But then he started talking about them. And I was curious. Like, he's like, here's what I'm trying to say with the movie. And here's how that message is going to play visually. And there are certain things that that I'm doing, and it was I got it. I was like, I get it. I really appreciate it. But he's like, don't worry. And he was like, it's not a matter of if, just a matter of when. And then,
oh man, I can't wait. Let's talk about Yellowstone.
So Yellowstone. So then I get the call. I literally get the call.
Sheriff Ramsey. Come on now.
I get the call from Taylor. So that was Wind River was 2017, right? And then, I did Criminal Minds 2015 and came out so I talked to Taylor right after that, 2017. And then, and that's how it is. I'll talk to Taylor. Sometimes I'll message Taylor and I'll get a call back in 6 minutes. Sometimes it'll be 6 months.
I have a question though, because originally it was supposed to be an episode and he became a recurring role.
Well, sorry about that, Carlos.
What happened there? How did that change?
So I got a call from him, another one of those, like out of the blue calls, like probably like almost 2 years after our last call. I mean, I probably would message or I would see something and whatnot, but and he's like, hey, Kirkland, what are you doing? And good. And then he's like, well, can you be in Montana? It was like 2 weeks or something like that. He's like, can you be in Montana? I was like, sure, I can. Yeah, so what's going on? And this is Yellowstone's second season. So the first season had just aired, and it hadn't. Again, it goes back to that thing because I remember when I watched the first episode of it, and I was like, I messaged him. I was like, let no be the death of the question. I was like, this series is going to be so dope. Meaning that there's a line that Taylor had wrote that Kevin had said in there, and it just sometimes as an actor or as a story, there's a particular line that is an inroad to that character or to that story. Sometimes an actor, I'll read a script, and especially if it's something where we can jump over to Kingstown where I haven't seen it yet, I'll find a line in there that's the inroad to the character for me that will inform the character's behavior, and then I will go back, so to speak, and kind of create my own thing to get to that moment.
So Sheriff Ramsey.
So Sheriff Ramsey.
You had an expression, you called him an immovable object.
Immovable object, yeah. So Taylor called, he said, boom, been the plane. So I go out there and I do that episode and do some scenes in that. And I think I heard back from him a couple of months after that. Scenes are great. He goes, we'll have you back. And I didn't know that was going to happen. And I got it again. And then I just went to work and created this character. And Taylor's great that way. And it's also terrifying, but it's also great. And they send me the script. There's no table read. There's no anything. He's like, here's what's happening. He'll tell me the tone, which I really appreciate. Here's the tone of what's happening. And that's it. Not like, oh, you're thinking this or you're thinking, no. Here's the tone. And he trusts you, to not drop the ball, trust you. And then you show up. So I started building what this character would be like. I didn't know he was going to become Sheriff Ramsey.
How does Sheriff Ramsey interact with the Duttons? So, that family out there, no matter where you looked, everybody's so powerful. So
Ramsey, so then when we circled back, so this was season 2, and then so when season 4 came up, Taylor and I had that conversation about what was happening with Sheriff Ramsey and how his dynamic with the Duttons would be and how does he interact. Sheriff Ramsey, because I can go all over the place with my tangents. Sheriff Ramsey is he is the immovable object, and Sheriff Ramsey, who still lives, Sheriff Ramsey is
he's still alive and kicking.
He's still alive. He's still alive. And Taylor and I had some great conversations leading up to things changed with Kevin's early departure. But I won't.
I'm not gonna get into the politics.
For sure.
Let it be.
Yeah, that's
there's certain things I guess
we don't want this business. I stay away.
It's like a wasp's nest. Man.
I stay away from.
It doesn't
all
matter
of that.
what side you favor or whatever view you got, you're gonna get stung if you dig it.
If I'm not in the room, it's none of my business.
I agree with you.
If I'm not in the room, it's none of my business. Yeah. And but Ramsey is that immovable object, and he is. Some people would say what his fault is that he believes in the law and enforcing what's right. And we were setting up that dynamic between him and the Duttons because if you watch, the Duttons really are, at least from my character's point of view, they are the villains. People are rooting for the villains.
That's crazy, right?
And that's funny, yeah.
You can have villains. Sometimes you watch movies. I was not changing the subject. The Jackal TV series. You start to
Eddie Redmayne.
You start to sometimes root for the villain. He's the villain, and it's like, oh man, I hope he gets the guy that ripped him off or whatever. But anyhow, going back to the Duttons, amazing cast, amazing series. I had to binge. I started watching Yellowstone. It was kind of like during the COVID time when everybody was indoors and stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember my father-in-law. I was stranded in South Carolina. Iced everything around. I couldn't leave his house. So I think I watched like 3 seasons at once. It was already
right on.
But anyhow, this episode is brought to you by Machado Method Nutrition, premium fuel for disciplined athletes who train with intent and recover with purpose. Live the method, fuel the life. Start now at MachadoMethodNutrition.com. What, from that point, I knew already you had a relationship with Taylor. You had the experience with the show. I mean, that's like, I think it was the highest earning from Paramount. If not the biggest, one of the biggest.
It's the one of the.
And then when you think, man, you hit it, then you get the Mayor of Kingstown.
Well, Mayor of Kingstown, which is the first thing that Taylor had written, one of the first things he had written, but he kind of tucked that in the drawer, so to speak, for a number of years. And so I got a friend of mine had read the pilot for Mayor of Kingstown. I think that he had went in on it. He goes, "Oh, you need to talk to Taylor about Mayor of Kingstown." I was like, "Bro, I just talked to Taylor about everything that's going to be happening with Sheriff Ramsey in the many seasons that at that point that were to and the multiple seasons to come." I was like, I'm not gonna I didn't say, hey, this other thing, hey, what about you? What about your other show? But I read the script. I'm like, son of a bitch, this is another one. Again, like it's not just like I'll read certain things and some things jump off the page, but then there's some things that jump off the page and that are still weighted underneath. You know what I mean? And those are harder to come by, because there's like that inline. I always say that acting is like it's like you are when you're, there are certain things in between the notes, basically. You know what I mean? You read a script, or you'll see a performance, or listen to a piece of music. It's the stuff in between the notes, and that's what Taylor does really well. He knows how to like put something together that pops, you know. But there are those things in between the notes. And I read this when I read the pilot of Kingstown. I'm like, this is great. This pops. It's got it out. But this is something different in this genre for what's in between the notes there. I guess that's the music background. But anyway, so I read that and I was like, okay. So then it's funny because Taylor actually ended up calling me a couple of weeks after that, and I had put a call into my manager beforehand, and I was like, yeah, well, you guys reach out. So Taylor's busy, so reach out to the people's casting and whatever, and let's see what's going on with this, because I think that there is something that I can contribute to this piece of this music, to the music, and you know what I mean, and here, so to speak. And then I got a call from Taylor, which was completely unrelated. Unrelated to my managers, because I called them out. He's like, no, it's like Taylor it was already in the ether, and he's like, yeah, I want to talk to you about Kingstown and this character. And there was another character I was going to play in there, and he changed it to
Captain Walter.
Captain
right?
Walter. Yeah. So he was like Captain Walter. He told me about what the story was about, what they were trying to say. I was like, cool. Got it. I love that.
Who was Captain Walter?
Who is Captain Walter? Captain Walter, it's funny because I was doing Walter and Ramsey at the same time, and there's a difference between a sheriff, obviously, and a police captain, different environments. So I would say that Captain Walter is a guy that he is trying to do the best thing that he can in that situation. He's different from Ramsey, where Walter is he's by the book, but he
deals with the system.
He deals with the system. Walter is much more of a politician than Ramsey is. Sheriff Ramsey is not much of a politician, which is ironic because the sheriff is an elected official who is actually a politician. But Walter is much more political. He is a guy who, if he wasn't a police captain, would have been an attorney, possibly a civil rights attorney.
Talk about that.
Yeah,
about that nuance.
Well, that nuance is that when I was looking at Walter and reading the script, and again, we hadn't seen anything, and trying to get a sense of the tone of it, and then it's funny. I think it was a line in that, because I hadn't gotten the scripts yet, so I was like, okay, let me do this. I went out and I reached out. Jiu-Jitsu. I reached out to Huron, and I was like, hey, do you know anybody? Because they were doing a lot of the GST stuff with the police officers. Like, who do you know in Detroit? And I said, can you do me a favor, Huron? Can you reach out he's like, I got someone in Detroit that's gone through GST. I said, can you mind connecting me with them? He's like, sure. And he did. And so I talked to Sergeant Mark, and we had a great conversation.
That's a learning experience, isn't it? Like when you read about it and when you talk to somebody who's with the boots on the ground.
Yeah, well, so I know one of the boots on the ground. Yeah, my my intensity, as my sister would say, my intensity and rockheadedness, where I get myself set on something. It's great because it works for me in approaching characters or whatnot. I not necessarily method, and no shade to anyone who is, but my approach is by maybe method in a different way so that I can let it go when I'm actually shooting. So I was like, cool, talk to Mark. And I was like, okay, hey, he's like, we just need to do the background check and everything. I was like, I'll get on a flight. I said, I'll be on a flight next week. And I would like to just spend that time with you guys because I also wanted to get Walter further away from Ramsey. So let's go to Detroit. Yeah. Let's go to Detroit. Let's go to Dearborn. So I did 4 days out there, 4 hours. I said, you guys sleep 4 hours a day? I'll sleep 4 hours a day. So I was shadowing the officers. And
I have a quick question. Yeah. I'm going on the tangent here right now.
Yeah, go for it.
I have to follow some ideas that I have.
No, we're good. I'm the tangent guy. Yeah.
No, we're good. Yeah. Now, Jeremy Renner, was that after his accident?
This is before the accident.
Before the accident.
This is before the accident. So yeah, so you're working with Jeremy. So, and that's the thing. It's like I just had the pilot script at that particular point. Okay. So I went out there. I was like, well, let me build this character and be ready for whatever comes to me on the mat, so to speak. Whatever comes, whatever the script is. Yeah. So came back and then I got the scripts and I was like, oh, this is great. And this is like, so I was, and I remember James Baldwin. I remember Taylor and I talking way back in the day about James Baldwin, which was great. It's like, oh, here's this cowboy that is well, and so what I did with Walter is the funny part is I based Walter. I don't think I've said this before. I based Walter. I think I said this part, but not the other part. Is that I based Walter on James Baldwin, where he would have been. He came from a family of activists, right? And but he finds himself in a system that he's trying to keep good men from doing worse things. Good men and women from doing worse things than they're already doing, powerful. And that's where Walter is, which is different from Ramsey, where Walter actually has more. He's a little more nuanced with people being fluid. So
how does that resonate with you, like with that prison complex and the different issues within that environment? So within from the character's point of view.
From Walter's point of view, he looks at this it's an uncomfortable reality that he got into this thinking that he could make the impact of it. The other part of Walter that's not funny, but I take it seriously to an extent is General Zod from Man of Steel. I was like rewatching Man of Steel, I think when I was in Detroit, and I was like, oh, this guy is like James Baldwin and Michael Shannon's take on General Zod and Man of Steel. I don't know what it was, but because Shannon and Zack and Snyder's that version of Zod, he was that line when he goes and you really believe it in Zod is that he's doing this for his people. This is his purpose, and if his purpose to protect his people means that he has to exist in this space in this particular way, then he'll do that. So I was like, oh, what an interesting,
parallel.
What an interesting, like the two wolves we all carry. Yep. Those are Walter's two wolves, basically. And that answers that question and how he sees the system. There's the James Baldwin, the activist, who is, very erudite. And then there's this other part of him who's like very militant part that are always, in conflict. So he sees this system as something that he got involved in to help fix. And he's in that conflict is that am I actually feeding the problem? Yeah. What am I actually doing? Yeah. And he's so caught up with the thunderstorm, and there's a thunderstorm coming right now in season 4. We're shooting right now.
No spoiler yet.
No spoilers. Come on now. But Walter has been trying the best for the past 4 seasons, or in this case, his 15 years in working on that force to keep these good men and women from doing worse things than they're already doing, and to keep the system from falling.
It's kind of like in martial arts, you call managing the odds.
You're managing the odds.
I don't want to die.
I
want to survive. So how can I manage to increase my survival chances? That's like you work with that common least denominator, right?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you also, because martial arts, we talked about that in the beginning. I think it has to do with lifestyle, because a lot of times people do hobbies for different reasons, but I think like jiu-jitsu in particular is one of those things that has a spell upon you. Once you start doing it, you get the taste of it. You go there, you feel tortured when you're on the mat, like you guys, you're about to gasp for air, claustrophobic. And then when you go for the next session, you recall the previous one. Oh my gosh, am I making myself do that again? Sometimes I myself say, why in the world I'm doing to my body? I'm doing jiu-jitsu. Of course, you have that train smart approach. You want to have longevity behind it. But talk a bit about your routine, because you're in such a good shape. You're like you look great. You're everything that you carry with you. I can see martial arts now that I know of part of it. So I like to hear about how that impacts everything else in your life. And I have just like what would you say? Why? I mean, I see quite a few actors that are martial artists, or they're involved in fitness and lifestyle, healthy lifestyle. But you see a lot of those that are not. You know what I'm saying? So what would you say about that part? it's part of you, right?
It just becomes part of you to where and I'm not saying it's always easy. What was one of my nieces was saying, it's like, wow, Uncle Rob just looks like he just loves, because I'll put stuff on my social media, just loves being in the gym. And my sister's like, yeah, she says like he just loves. I was like, yeah, but no. And to the point being that I was like, no, it's like every day I'm not excited every day. There's some days where you go and aren't as excited to go train or lift or spar, but it's what your own personal goal.
Don't you feel better at the end?
But when I get started,
what's the payback?
I have never gone to jiu-jitsu or gone to the gym and when I'm done saying, man, I wish I didn't come. You know what I mean? That's
what I tell people.
Never that is
the end game. Is the end in sight, right?
In sight. You have to go through, and it's those days where I don't feel like, even if I'm a little bit injured, I'll just take a light. But it's the days that I don't feel like lifting or running, or just like the days I don't feel like rereading that script for the.
Yeah, what's your routine like? Martial arts or fitness?
So martial arts or fitness. So I set it up in a way to where it becomes a way of life. You know what I mean? You can sit down and you can watch your favorite program.
Like a week. Let's say from Monday to Friday.
So Monday through Friday. So Monday I will, this is an insight to my religiosity.
Just tell whatever you're comfortable
with. My
with.
religiosity. No, I can just hear my sisters in my head. But yeah, I'll get up in my routine during the day. I get up in the morning.
Are you an early bird?
I'm not an early bird. From being, I consider myself, when I was doing music or whatnot, but no, now I am. I forced myself to get up. And that's another thing too, is like I'm not an early riser. So I get up before the sun. It's not easy. So I feel for people who are like, it's
You're not a 5 a.m. fan.
Every morning. I'm not a 5 a.m. fan, but I'm up by 5:55. So no matter what happens by 5:55, I've got to be up. This morning was a little different because my internal clock is a little funky now, but with the travel, which happens. But 5:55. By 5:55, whatever it is, I'm out. I gotta roll out of the bed.
Yeah. Somebody has a question.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Because I feel like I'm kind of getting up at 5 a.m., but I'm closer to 6. No, I mean, I know there's some numerology stuff in there for sure. I was like, it's a nice, not palindrome, whatever it is, but and it kind of sticks. I'm like, oh, I get up at 555, but also I chose that number because I know like there's something that 5 is an ethereal angelic number or whatever. But anyways, yeah, I choose 555 because I feel like I'm getting up at 5 a.m. But really, it's kind of 6. It's kind of 6 a.m. So I'm putting out that hour. But yeah, so I get up at 5 to do that. I'll do my writing. I'll get up, do my warm ups. I have a routine I do,
so you do have a morning routine.
I have a morning routine. I'll get up, I'll do that. I try to capture what. I'll give myself 3 minutes about what it was that is on my mind with the dream that I was dreaming or what.
So do you have a notepad that you write down your dreams?
I used to use a notepad. I use my phone. I probably need to change that. I'm trying to like do my best to get away from my phone.
Is it easy for you to recall your dreams?
Not all the time. But I do have more lucid dream experiences from doing that. Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
How does the draw inspiration or give you answers? Because I see guys like Nikola Tesla, the inventor. Yeah. And he had a notepad next to him. He would wake up in the middle of the night with an idea or formula. He would write down. The next day he would go to the lab to do the work there. There
have been some moments where there have been some occasions where I'll have a problem or something work out, in the dream as an allegory sometimes.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, do you go to bed thinking about something and then it kind of influences somehow?
I become more conscientious of that. Yeah, it does at times. A lot of what I'm doing lately is letting it be. And what I mean by letting it be is I'm doing my best not to have an opinion about. Let me rephrase that. I'll go to bed and try to have some type of an intention. I'll try to like recap the day, which is funny because that's something that I've been doing for some time as an actor.
Do you write it down?
Yeah, I do that with my auditions.
So you journal?
Yeah, I'll do that with the phone. Okay. Again, with me in that phone. I do have my phone in airplane mode though, so I don't really answer any calls or take anything in before a certain hour. That's for sure. But yeah, I'll do that practice I was doing as an actor, which helped me with auditions to let things go, things that I did well, things I can improve on, write it down, let it go and delete it actually. And then with
Has
jiu-jitsu,
it been always the case?
Hasn't been always the case. That's something I've been doing the past 2 years, but then it's something that I've also brought into my jiu-jitsu.
I'm curious though.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
And dreams.
Does that make you sleep better?
That
or
does.
fall asleep more easily?
That does. Oh, so doing that before the recapping the day and doing that, yeah, it actually does. I say that because I have been known to fall asleep on cars, subways, not driving, but I fall asleep well. I sleep.
Are you a nap guy?
Professor Carlos, I have dreams of naps, and I always say I'm going to do a nap on this day or that day. Even yesterday, I'm going to do a nap, and it never really happens.
Yeah,
it never really happens unless I'll sleep on a plane. So I'll usually get my naps if I'm on something transit, and it's moving.
Yeah,
but
gotcha.
yeah, so I say that because I typically sleep well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm appreciative of that. But I have, when I write things down or take a recount of the day, or an account of the day, whatever it is, the dreams are better. And sometimes I don't remember the dreams, sometimes I do, but it's how you wake up in the morning. Yep. So in that sense, yeah, there is a difference.
All right, so you got your morning routine.
Yeah, morning routine.
You did whatever you did. So
do that, get up.
So on a weekly basis, how
yeah.
often you do jiu-jitsu? I know you said something you're going to see Higa on Wednesday next week. And how do you kind of work about your day on that part?
Okay, so yeah, so morning routine, boom, do that, do the writing. Morning routine, do the writing. Turn the electronics on, check the emails to the phones, go to the gym. So I make sure that I go to the gym that I'm doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Make sure that I give myself time off.
4 times.
Yeah, make sure I give myself time off. And I have come to respect the days off as much as I do the days on. That's really, really important. And then I will do that, go lift. Then I will go to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a big fan of the day classes. So that way it makes it easier for me to go to sleep. Yeah, I'll do that. And then I'll make sure that I'm doing jiu-jitsu 3 days a week.
3 times a week?
Yeah, minimum.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, do it a minimum of 3 times a week. Sometimes it's more, but sometimes less. I mean, 2 times if I'm, but the past year or so, that's really helped, is keeping that commitment, and also not, training too hard. Like when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I was saying to someone the other day at the academy, they were asking me that question, and I said, well, I do my conditioning and my strength and my health stuff at the gym, whether it's the wind sprints or the assault bike or deadlifting and I have these things set up to very specific days. I do certain things, which makes it easy because I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do today for 45 minutes. And when it's done, it's done. It's just like I get up and do this, and it just becomes part of the way of life. And then when I go to jiu-jitsu,
you don't want to kill yourself.
Yeah, I look at jiu-jitsu as a skill set.
Yep.
A lethal, formidable skill set that can be taxing on your body. Yep. But I approach it as a skill set. So when I'm in there, I'm not trying to outmuscle someone. Even I'm not trying to do. It's what's the skill set.
We have a motto at my gym. Initially, it was leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
Now it's train smart, stay humble.
100%.
Because if you train smart and you stay humble, you're going to go for the long haul.
Yeah.
And the way I look after doing jiu-jitsu for 57 years, I see that some guys, they go too hard, too soon, or they only have one pace, and usually they don't last in the long haul. Their body will pay the consequences for it. And I think it's such a missed opportunity because, like you said, jiu-jitsu done the right way, you can do for a long time. Yeah. And it's such a pleasant martial arts when you follow that approach. Mm-hmm. I agree 100% with you. I want to talk about superheroes now, if you don't mind. Okay, so I know I saw something about Blue Marvel. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that. I'm actually, you literally fit. Even, you look like the character that I was. I was always asking. When I teach seminars, sometimes I have the Marvel time or DC Comics, whatever they pick. What's your favorite hero? And I try to pick the main power of each of those and correlate to something that we can be powerful in martial arts.
No, interesting.
Let's say. Yeah. And mine is Doctor Strange.
Love Doctor Strange. Yeah.
Reason I say is, out of all the characters that I saw, if you control time.
Yeah.
And you can put something in a loop. So when I'm going against a guy, I'll make sure I put that guy in a loop. So whatever is going on, he keeps falling into the same situation over and over again. So that gives me a much greater degree of control. You know, so it keeps happening over and over. That's my search in jiu-jitsu. I try to find a pattern, and no matter where we start, I always make sure that they fall into that loop.
That's great,
right? So I kind of tell them that perspective, but then I want to ask you if Blue Marvel, in terms of the power of the significance of the character, because I was a bit intrigued when I saw it, and I understand in the 60s, was that when?
I didn't originally introduced. Yeah.
So the whole thing with the White House putting him aside because of the culture at the time, and the discrimination of some sorts, and that kind of struck me by surprise because I didn't get that much knowledge about that.
He's an interest. Yeah, he's an
it's so powerful.
And so powerful. Was powerful. Yeah, he's really interesting. It's funny. I was talking to I won't mention his name. He's a good friend of mine who's written quite a few things for Marvel, and I was at his house a few months ago. I was like, him and his girlfriend. I was like, yeah. So I don't know. I just dropped that information. He's like, oh, I've heard of it. I don't know too much about him. I was like, look into him. Plant that seed. Look into him. Maybe you'll send Kevin Feige a spec script on Blue Marvel. But anyways, yeah.
What powers does he have? He cannot be destroyed by a nuclear bomb. He can withstand any pressure.
But I will.
Does he have a weak spot?
I don't know what that's a good question. I don't know what his weak spot is. And I'm also, he's kind of, he's not like the Century. He's different than the Century, but he's more mentally stable than the Century. But he's at that power level. But there's also, and thank you for looking into that. I forgot that I had put that out there somewhere. But also. Martian Manhunter, LaMonica Garrett from 1883. LaMonica and I were going back and forth for a little bit, talking about. I know that he wanted to, and to be part of the Green Lantern Corps. And there's still time. I'm sure there are many Green Lanterns. But I was like, what we need to do is that we need to get James on the phone, James Gunn, and we need to pitch. We need to pitch Martian Manhunter. And Green Lantern, because Martian Manhunter is another one, and so to the point about the weakness, which I find so appealing about Martian Manhunter, and I'm curious to see what
would that be a bucket list for you, playing this character?
That's interesting. That would be as an actor, and this, whether or not this comes off earnest or not is whatever, but there are certain. That would be fun to do. It would be fun to play Martian Manhunter, about this guy who has all these abilities that really kind of trump Superman in some ways. But his weakness is fire. But the one thing that he really wants is prolonging the connection after this. There's so much humanity in this alien, a Martian Manhunter that's an alien, but there's so much humanity in him, and I think there's a way to bring that character to life, and in addition to the superhero mythos, in a way that I don't think that I've seen yet with Martian, with him within the DC but that aside, it would be about. It would really be about the story. It would be about, there are certain stories I'd want to be involved in, and sometimes that story might be something that's in a fantastical universe. It might might be something that is on a ranch or at sea or whatever it is. But the same thing that kept me driven doing those plays and plays that I would still do. It's what part of the human condition are we exploring in, and what part of myself am I exploring in this situation that I think that I can add to this particular thing. So it would kind of be a bucket list item, but if it was something to where I was like, oh, this is such an interesting, which is why those characters are more than just it has to be more than the. I am a super introvert, which won't be shocking to a lot of my friends. I could stay.
You're so at ease to talk to.
No, introvert, but thank you. But yeah, it's among small groups, but so all that other fanfare stuff is cool and it could be necessary to a certain extent, but it really isn't the thing. Not saying that you're saying that, but as far as like to play the superhero, it would be the story. There are characters and historical figures that I would be a bucket list to take a crack at.
I want to ask you this because I'm not going to talk about conspiracy theories today.
Okay,
but impulse. Right.
Impulse.
So
I'm not laughing at the movie. I'm laughing at. I was like, Impulse. That's right. I was in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a governor with a prospect of being a president.
Yeah.
And it talks about the guy pulling the strings behind the scenes and trying to get you trapped and things like that.
Yeah.
And, that storyline, because you always think about through history, who are the people benefiting from the status quo? Who might be plotting? And a lot of times you see, it doesn't have to be talking about politics, but a government or a politician not actually representing the country or the people, but representing the interests.
Yeah.
They're putting him there. And now we're talking about global domination, this whole thing. What was your experience there? We're gearing towards, catching up with your future projects or where you stay, but I want to just kind of pick your brains real quick on that one.
Yeah, Impulse. When that came to me, they had reached out, and then my manager at the time was like, Cassavetes, and I've always wanted to work with Nick Cassavetes. I mean, a lot of people have seen and heard of The Notebook, which Nick did. Check that out, and also check out his dad and his mom's work, which are iconic. But Alpha Dog. I mean, when I saw Alpha Dog, I'm like, whoa, this is dope. But anyways, so to work with Nick would have been great, and it was great. Working with Nick was great, and to now to have that rapport with him, I learned a lot from him. Working with him on that film.
Was that overseas?
No, we shot here. We shot Nick. We shot that out here, or not out here. We're in Texas. Sorry, we shot that out in California. But when I read that script, what was intriguing about the script was, to your point, was that situation. And then the character, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And not me
How
getting
many guys politicians
too deep into
they get
that.
Trapped.
I was like, that was the
into
most
the blackmail thing.
That was the most
crazy,
alluring part for me of the story. And I'm not saying there weren't other interesting parts of the story, but I looked at the story and I try to look at a script, whether I'm in it or not, or wanting to be in it or up for it. Looking at it, just a quick read. Not looking like, oh, this will be interesting because my character does this. No, I just read it and see what pops out. You know what I mean? And same thing, and then those things usually I run with, and build off of and reverse engineer when it comes time to do the work. But that character really popped out to me. I was like, oh, this is the character they're talking about. That works out great. Was the world that they had set up in that script, and then self-servingly, that character in that situation was the most interesting part. What is it? And I was like, oh, I hadn't really played a guy like that, at least on screen. Yeah, at least on screen, where he is this guy, and watching him or experiencing him self-destruct, and that journey.
Man, it's one of those things, the red pill or the blue pill, man.
Yeah, having this guy go through and walking that line. And I'm realizing as I'm saying that most of my I like these characters that walk that line, and he's really, Governor Hughes is really walking that line until he's not. And then and again, it's all, the storytelling is also about empathy, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about us being reminded about our humanity and in different aspects of it. And I was like, oh, there is something touching and tragic with this character and this dynamic. Now, getting into the political side of it, I have my opinions about things, but again, like we said before, I stay out of. I also with art, I think with Rick Rubin's his book Creative Act. I recommend people to read that and what he says in that book about it, which I completely concur with. As an artist, it's your job to have a point of view. not necessarily an opinion. If you have an earnest point of view, which allows you to be open and vulnerable to express it, then people that take in that performance can then draw their own opinion. You know what I mean? And that's what art is to an extent, whether it's painting, jiu-jitsu. If you go into, match like, I'm going to armbar this guy, you can do that. You can have that particular, objective or opinion about, or even a point of view about your opponent. You have
to go to the mat.
You have to go to the mat. Like,
right?
This guy's not going to like make this happen or whatever it is. Yeah. But if you have an opinion, but like, no, my point of view is this is what I want to. This is my intention. This is what I'm going to or whatever. But So I kind of if I went a little bit off track.
Yeah,
but
you did say something. The mat never lies.
The mat never lies.
Yeah, a lot of times you see those guys that before they go train with somebody, I can do this, I can do that. I've been doing this for this long. I have all these accolades and stuff, and then go there and fall short. And I'm thinking here, man, keep your mouth shut. Just show what you know, do what you do, and just go about it. Learn and share. What's going on with Rob for the future? If whatever you can disclose, where you are now in your career, and if there are projects, which I'm assuming you probably have a few things that you may be able to mention.
Yeah, there are a few things. I see that in a good way. There are a few things, and
don't spoil.
Yeah, don't spoil. So there are a few things, and as I'm saying, I'm like, there's a few things, and then there's a lot of work to do, which is good. I welcome the work. So right now we are filming season 4 of Mayor of Kingstown, which I will say is hands down looking to be our best season yet.
Wow.
I've went through a number of the scripts, and when I'm reading something that I'm involved in on top of that, and I'm surprised or moved or like, oh damn, like, so people that have been following the show and shout out to the fans of the show, like, and I'll hear people yell out
Mayor of Kingstown is coming.
I'll hear people yell out Kingstown, like Kingstown. People won't, more people are saying the Walter name, which is fine, but they'll just say Kingstown. I'm like, and I'm like looking around, it's like, they're talking like, so the fan base is building on that. So people have been fans of the show will just buckle up. But people that aren't fans of the show, now is the time to check out season 1 through 3.
Let's go binge. Plus. I have to catch up with a couple seasons.
Go binge 1 through 3 because
when is it scheduled to open?
I do not know. That's a good question.
Come on, man. Hey, you probably know, but you can't tell.
No,
you and I are going to talk after this is over.
Afterwards, I know. I'm waiting for Paramount to let us know. Yeah. But we're shooting this. My next stop after here is I go back to LA for a minute, and then I go back to Pittsburgh to shoot the season finale. But I would I can't stress it enough. I'm very excited about it, but people are going to be shook when they see this season. So I've got that Mayor of Kingstown going on. I have a couple of projects in the works. There is a short film that I'll be shooting after when I get back from Kingstown in June. We're setting up. I have a feature that it looks like it's being in the fast track stage, but it's still, I still got a lot of work to do on that. So we're going to be shooting that. We're looking at by the end of this year, early 2026 I'll be directing that. And then there's a couple of the projects, and there's some things going on, but so awesome. I feel very, very fortunate for these opportunities. I'm just trying to make the most of these opportunities and to just tell some great stories.
That brings me the question, because you seem to be very measured on the way your career has been. You've been mindful, intentional.
Yeah.
And you keep your routine, on and off the match, what we call. On and off the match. Yeah. Everywhere in your life. What advice would you have for aspiring actors or people maybe underrepresented? What would you tell them? Because some people, whatever experience, sometimes they get cut short to assume they have aspirations. They think it's one way, one thing. They go to Hollywood, and all of a sudden they're going to hit. That's
a good question. There's a couple of things. One thing to that point about, is having you got to do something. You got to do the self-exploration, like you were talking about before. You've got to go into the solitude so that you have an understanding of who you are and what you want. You have to have some type of vision about where you're going, but you have to be fluid with that, because things will come in ways that you don't know. So you want to be so rigid. Like there are things, and from that you can say no. There are things I said no. There are things, something I said no to for this film. What is today? Whatever day this is. Yesterday. I told my team, I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, no, like I was offended, but like no, and not no because it doesn't align with things I want to be a part of or directions I want to go. But in order to say that and not look back and say, oh man, I wish that, or I could have used that money or that check, you know what I mean? Yep. is to be okay, is to be okay with that. I don't need to do everything and be in everything and be everywhere. And I would say that's the first thing I would say to people coming up. You don't need to be in everything and do everything. But when in the beginning, let me rephrase that. You need to know what to say no to. So that you're okay with saying no and that you can welcome in the yes. Because there are a lot of things you have to say.
You hit something so relevant. Everybody thinks that you have to say yes to everything.
No.
And that's recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you have to say yes to what makes you feel uncomfortable. I think you have to say yes to what challenges you. And
out of your comfort zone.
And no to what is comforting to you. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Say this is comforting to me. Oh, I could say yes to this movie. I think there's been a couple of them, and go do that. It's comforting. It's safe. It's not going to stretch anything. I'll make some dollars on here. That'll be cool.
Yep.
And but then step back. How does that look? How is that part of the epitaph when you're 90 or maybe 109 and within the body of work, you know what I mean? And for myself, hey man, even if it costs me money, which it has, there's a body of work I'm trying to
invest in yourself, right?
Invest and build on. And it doesn't mean I'm going to hit it every time, but take that risk. So you don't have to say yes to everything. So I see that with people are like, oh, well, some of the relationships I have, I was like, well, these aren't people that my friend group or whatever it is, because when I came to the town, I didn't know anyone. And on top of that, I was doing music and stuff. And I was never like trying to go to this party. I was never trying to go do this. I was never, I get my sleep. I guess I'm an introvert. I stay in, or whatever. And I would hang out with my friends, and I would hang out and talk to people that were just interesting. You know what I mean? And I was kind of, which I still am, kind of nerdy about story, whether it was music or film or whatever it is, or plays. And I was nerdy about that stuff, but I didn't have to tell the whole world I was nerdy about it. I mean, there's a thing about, keeping things, inside
you have your space,
keep a space. But, and then, so whether that was, me going to this thing and then, developing a friendship with Taylor, you know what I mean? And just for the sake of, hey, this guy is interesting, is unique, is a cool cat, you know what I mean? We have cool conversations. I appreciate his insight. That was great. Or Ryan Johnson, and just like, oh, this guy, also interesting cat, not to just be sitting here freaking, being that, name dropping kind of thing. So, but I'm just saying that because I've had people ask me that, or someone will like, oh, someone says,
you got to cultivate your relationships, but you have to be mindful of your space, and you need your solitude.
You need your solitude, and you need to just be authentic, right? I would say, because people would say, oh, I need to go to this. It's like, do you? I mean, yes, you need to be assertive with your career, but you need to have a vision of what that is first. But is that just be authentic, do the things that interest you, that you feel cultivate you, that you feel challenge you, that you grow, and then those people will be around. But the minute you start going outside of yourself, chasing after this person, or I need to go be where that person is, or I need to be where that guy is, or this, or so and so is going to be there. The minute you start doing that, you're giving away that internal. You're going off your internal compass,
energy.
And it zaps your energy, and then you start chasing that external.
You got to stop your routine.
You stop your routine. You start chasing that external approval, and then you just you spiral out. It happens with jiu-jitsu, right? You've been you guys are icons in this space, and I've seen it in my short time of 7 odd years of people that you just burn, or you're looking this, or you're like, I got to beat that guy, or I got to be with this, I got to do what this guy's doing, or I got to do this thing and do this
Call
thing.
that Frankenstein Jiu-Jitsu.
The Frankenstein Jiu-Jitsu.
You learn too many things at once from too many people.
Yeah,
you lose your identity.
Like, who am I? Yeah, and what's the language that I'm trying to speak here with?
Each one has their own particular DNA.
Yeah,
of that you got to build up on top of it.
Yeah,
I'd like to thank you so much.
Oh, right on.
For your
cool,
presence.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you if there are any social media or anywhere that people can connect and keep up with you. Would that be, please?
Oh yeah, you can check me out at on Instagram.
Yes,
that Rob Kirkland. I think I have a Threads. I think my Twitter is or X. I am not as active as I should be, but my stories. Yeah, go to Instagram. Find me at that.
I did, man.
At that Rob Kirkland.
I can't watch my. I learned about your whole life. Just watch your story.
Oh, the stories.
That's a movie.
Watch my. Thank you, Professor.
That's awesome.
Yeah, watch my stories, because people are like, you don't post stuff much. My sister's like, you need to post stuff. You need to do videos talking. And I put stuff in my stories, which is usually jiu-jitsu or something from some film, or jiu-jitsu.
Your weight training and everything.
Weight training.
That was
whatnot.
awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And so it might not be that exciting.
No, I can dig it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah.
So that Rob Kirkland, that's your Instagram.
Not the Rob Kirkland, because I thought that would be a little bit too too posh, as my friends across the pond say. So that Rob Kirkland.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd like to invite all the listeners to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. I want to thank Mr. Roger Perry is our engineer, producer. Professor Santos out there.
Professor Santos,
he's kind of like hiding on the background for being helpful in helping out here, Rob.
Yeah, thank you.
Navigate through the Dallas roads.
Yeah.
And Rob, if we have time, I'd love to spend some time with you on the mat, show you some tricks. We'll check the time in a bit.
I'm very
and then go from there.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody for it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a big honor. Thank you so much. Thank you. Obrigado. Muito obrigado.